Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 4th. I'm your host, Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 27 in the house, and what a day. What a day of more of Mickey trying to decide what to do and a surprise pitch by Rachel as well that we're definitely going to have to talk about. So with me to talk about it all is Maggie. How you doing, Maggie?
Hi, Taran. Hi, everyone. I actually don't know what you're talking about, and I refuse to engage with that this morning. I know you brought me on to discuss the day's happenings, but I don't remember that being a part of the day's happenings. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, let's go straight into it here. Of course, Mickey is the HOH, stolen from Riley. She initially nominated Keanu, Kelly, and Riley, and Keanu won the veto, which meant that Mickey was going to have to name a replacement nominee. It became pretty clear pretty quickly that she was thinking of Jimmy. This is probably, quite frankly, been on her mind since his HOH reign. It didn't help the fact that Keanu was able to follow the breadcrumbs that they wanted and said, oh yeah, Jimmy's the reason I'm coming after you, which is just not even remotely true. And I, quite frankly, don't even think that Keanu intended to lie to them about that.
No.
He just likes to blame people and was trying to blame Rachel. But they were more upset with Jimmy. And so Jimmy has been on the mind for Mickey. And the day is mostly going to be her continuing to have conversations about whether or not she wants to make this move. And, you know, takes quite a while for her to come to a solid conclusion, and really even then, who knows how solid it is. But that is sort of the main focus of the day.
Yeah. I think that you guys are going to have a lot to discuss on the roundtable tonight. God bless you, Melissa. I know Mari's joining you. Like, oh my gosh, hats off to you guys trying to sort through everything. But I think my big takeaway from watching everything yesterday is that, like, when you're reading the updates online, it can make you feel like, if you're just purely reading them and you're not watching, it can make you feel like you're going absolutely crazy and like somebody is pumping something into the house that has made everybody lose their mind. And when you watch it and watch their gears turn, it still makes no sense, but you at least are a little bit more able to be like, oh, I actually do understand what's going on, which is Mickey's pissed at Jimmy. She's been pissed at Jimmy since it happened. She doesn't like him. She doesn't trust him. And she's wanted to do this since it started. Like, this is an emotional decision for her, in my opinion.
Yes.
And like this, when you're reading these updates, like I do the same thing. I was doing the same thing. I was going through and I was like, how are we here? How are we here? But like, actually, the story is Mickey and Morgan taking a lot of things at face value and not being strategically apt enough to actually understand the layout of the house and seeing what they want to see. And I think that is kind of being buried underneath like all of these bad moves, just being like, these people, like people throwing their hands up and being like, these people don't know what they're doing. Like, 1000% they don't. I am in desperate need of someone good at Big Brother to root for. That's who I like to root for. And in this house, like I said, the conversation we're gonna have later. I just like I'm in a drought here. But I do think that, like, looking at it from a place of these people are pissed at each other personally and trying to go through that lens makes it all make at least a crumb of sense.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. I think that Mickey, again, I talked about this yesterday. She has blinders on. She's getting so much information about why this strategically makes no sense, and she's either not listening to it and just like bearing through it all, or hearing it and being like, I really want to do Jimmy.
Exactly. It's like when it's kind of like, this is not really like a one-to-one comparison, but it's like when you're dating someone and you're like, I like them though, and they're like not treating you well, and your friends are like, okay, but they like don't respond to your texts, and they like don't answer you, and like they aren't nice to you, and you're like,
yeah, he's a little
but I
pushy,
like
but he wants to give me
them.
$750K.
Yeah, like, but I like them, and it's like, okay, and I also think that like you have to kind of put yourself in that mind space, or I really encourage you, one of the many conversations that Taran and I are going to be talking about today, where you're like, this makes no sense, watch it, and you will at least, like, the rage you feel inside, at least for me personally, did dissipate at least a little bit, because I was like, okay, she's a person. Like, these are people, and like there's more complicated emotions going on here than just like game body stuff. And no, these moves are horrible, don't get me wrong. Like I said, stock watch, God bless anybody who's been playing, because I don't even know what it's going to look like. It's going to be the red wedding of stock watches this evening. But I think that when you turn your mind off of like, this is the strategy, and like Mickey is a really strong strategic player, and maybe turn your mind towards Mickey is a really strong social player who is navigating the game the way she wants to, you'll be able to wrap your mind around this a little bit more.
It just made me more mad to know that she recognizes how bad a move it is.
Sure, Taran. I'm just saying, like, it's not people being like, there's not like no reason. You're not like, what are they putting in the house?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. It's based on an obvious lie.
Sure. Well, it's based. But I'm even saying I think it's based on an obvious lie that I don't even think that's the main reason. The main reason is she's pissed at him.
The main reason is that she genuinely just prefers somebody like Riley to somebody like Jimmy.
Yes, that's what, like, if she doesn't like him anymore. She's decided she doesn't like him, she doesn't want to work with him, and she doesn't trust him. So, like, you can say, oh, the reason is this obvious Keanu lie. However, it was incredibly apparent to me watching yesterday that, like, that's the smoke and mirrors of her being like, I just kind of want to get him out, and I don't want to deal with him, and I don't like him.
I mean, the other obvious lie is that Riley is a valuable or reliable number for her in any way.
That we can get to some of that when we get more niche in the conversations. I will get there, because
all right,
I can't, but yes.
So
I just at the top wanted to say that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, of course, throughout the day, there are many pitches made, lots of discussion that Mickey is having. Something that Mickey does is like really pushes hard against the idea that she's going to do anyway. Often, so like she's very much like the kind of person that if you had any conversation with her, she'd be like, well, devil's advocate. Like, she just automatically takes the opposite of what you want, even if it's what she wants is the same thing as what you want often. And so I'm not entirely sure how that will work out for her long term in the game, but it made for a lot of back and forth throughout the day. One of the first major pitches was from Ashley, who finally went up there and made a solid pitch for why it should be Vinnie, saying that he is a dangerous player in the game and that this might be the best time to take him out. And they started to count some numbers for the votes that they'd have to take Vince out of the game. And not wasn't too pushy about this. Like, she wasn't, she was like, Jimmy can also work. The weird thing is that so many people agree, it shouldn't be Kat. I think largely because Mickey keeps saying it's definitely not Kat. I'm not doing Kat. It makes no sense for me to do Kat. But it does make a lot of sense for her to do Kat.
Well, the reason, and again, I want to come back to this. Like, of course, strategically, everything about this, it makes sense. but emotionally, she feels so bad about doing this to Riley. She's like, I can't do it. Like, I feel like she genuinely feels so bad about taking over his HOH, putting him up, and then putting up his girlfriend. Not his girlfriend, but that's what everybody's saying. Just want to point that out. And I've not heard a word from Catherine about being his girlfriend, but the way that they're referring to her in the house, like saying I'm putting up, and then putting up his girl, or like the girl he's in love with. Like, I just can't do that. I'm a horrible person if I do that. And I understand why she feels bad about that. Like, that does, on face value, when you hear her say that, you're like, oh, I see why you would feel bad about that. But like, he screamed at you and swore at you and like would have put you up and strategic. Like, I think that, again, like I said, Mickey is very face value. Like, what somebody, she kind of is like very good faith when she's talking to people, in my opinion.
Not
Like,
Jimmy.
not Jimmy, but like Morgan. Some of the conversations she was having with Morgan yesterday, I was like, why are you saying this to her? Like, it with Riley, it's very good faith. With Keanu, it's very good faith. Like, I don't, yeah, that's my interpretation of all of this.
Briefly speaking on, because there wasn't a lot of importance in this conversation, but there was a funny moment. Rachel talks with Catherine later in the day, and they actually have like a little bit of like an apology session for the
Squash
argument
beef.
that we saw in the episode. And Rachel was like, "I get it. You were defending your man," and Catherine goes,
She said,
not my man."
She said, I think he might feel a little differently.
And Rachel was like, "Oh, okay." So
it's darkness.
Yeah. So yes, Ashley makes a pitch for Vinny. And Mickey is very reluctant. She is very against the idea when talking to Ashley. She basically gives no ground on this, and barely even agrees with Ashley that Vinny is a problem. Then moves on to, I'm really feeling like more like Jimmy. And Ashley's like, that's fine too. We can do Jimmy. That also can work. But Rachel's not going to like it. And Mickey was basically like, well, don't tell Rachel. And Ashley, I wouldn't tell Rachel.
After telling Rachel last night that they were going to vote her out first in jury.
Ashley did not like this conversation. She has been boxed out of Mickey's HOH reign basically the entire time. She finally gets a chance to actually talk to Mickey basically once, and continues to be denied entry to rooms many other times. And the one time she's finally able to pitch, she's basically completely shut down. She's told not to tell Rachel about what the real plan is. And she's feeling pretty frustrated. Later in the day, she's going to talk to Will about how this conversation really sketched her out. We already know that they've talked about how they're concerned that Mickey is going to, form this alliance with Morgan, Vinnie, and Zach. The four of them are up in the HOH room pretty late last night, which we'll talk about. And so Ashley is not feeling very good with Mickey. And again, it's just so funny to me how this is the exact same thing that Jimmy did on his HOH reign, pissing off his allies to win over Catherine and Riley. And that is what upset Mickey in the first place, to the point where she now wants to do the same thing to Jimmy in the same way, now pissing off her allies.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley is a really interesting player because she has struggled a lot socially, like a lot, and a lot of people don't vibe with her in the house, don't really like her, but she's smart and has good game sense most of the time. She reminds me kind of like, and maybe this isn't a one-to-one comparison, and you feel free to push back, chat, whatever, but like, she kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Jessica Milagros, where she knows what's going on, she knows what she has to do, but like finding her footholds and finding her footing to get people to work with her. Like, she's very, even her allies, she's not valued by them at all. And I understand why the other people in the house are not valuing her as much, because she does walk around and say things that really piss people off and people don't like her in the house. But she's an important piece for somebody like Rachel. Like, I really think Ashley telling Rachel the night before that she is going to be out first in jury, like, changed Rachel's entire game plan moving forward. We'll get there. But like, moving forward to the horrible conversation you're going to have to speak about, because I didn't see that. And then later in the evening, sort of where Rachel is. Like, she has a lot of dirt, and I think people are not recognizing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become pretty clear that there are not many people in the house that know what to do with their games at all. Like, at all.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say that, weirdly, like, Keanu is one of those people. He just can't see anything correctly. But if he was able to see things correctly, he would know what to do. He just has zero social ability to make it happen and can't see anything properly. Ashley kind of knows what to do, but also has an issue socially, and also has a major blind spot in Zach. Morgan kind of knows what to do, but also struggles a little socially, and has major blind spots with Zach and Vinnie.
I absolutely disagree with your statement. Morgan is away from my faith, my good faith. I have no faith in Morgan as a player. I think that she is way too focused on her social standing within the cool kids, who she wants to be with. And I do not think that she is seeing her game clearly. That is my crash out of the day. It actually is how disappointed I am with Morgan.
The thing is that Morgan, I think, has fairly consistently pushed for things that are good for her. The problem is that she is now also pushing for things that are good for Vinnie and Zach.
She doesn't,
and that's a problem.
She's decided, though, that she doesn't really care about what's good for her anymore, because she cares way more about being in with Zach and Vinnie and getting Zach to like her.
I think that she thinks that what's good for Vinnie and Zach is genuinely good for her because she's in with them. The problem is that she's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry. Can you feel the disappointment radiating off of me and everybody?
Well, the empathy with which you approached Mickey had me surprised when I mentioned Morgan and you crashed out.
I think it's because, like, Mickey's not doing this because she has like a crush on someone, and so she's like that part.
She hates someone.
At least that's like, yeah, okay. Leave me to contemplate this and have a better answer for you by the end of the update.
You could say her Brad Pitt obsession with Riley is a little distracting for her here too. Not to say that it's a crush, but it's maybe a game crush in terms of her wanting to work with him for no reason.
Okay, we have to move on.
Okay.
I can't. Seeing the light, I can't.
So just to continue the analysis here for a moment. I think Vince is another person who generally knows what to do. He just never pushes.
Yeah.
And Zach also similarly tends to know what to do, but also does not push hard enough. And that really genuinely just leaves Rachel as the only person who is just leagues ahead of everyone else in terms of strategy, but struggles socially and with some motivation, which we will get to. So that is, let's get to it right now, because it's finally time for Mickey to talk to Rachel. And it feels as though they've already had like a precursor to this conversation. Mickey's like, tell me about your pitch. And Rachel starts, and here, just to set this up, I'm listening to the feeds right now. I am not watching them in this moment. I'm listening to this conversation. And I have my ears, ready to hear Rachel do her pitch for Vince, because we know that Rachel's been trying to get Vince on the block. And Rachel starts talking about how she really feels like the move that Mickey should make is to put Ava on the block. And I was like, I must not have heard that right. They must have she must have misspoke. And Mickey starts talking about like, I mean, it could make sense. And Rachel's like, it does make sense. It would get the least blood on your hands. Ava would lose the blockbuster. Ava would go home. Nobody would be mad at you. And I'm like, wait, sorry. Ava, if you're mentioning Ava, you're surely at least saying as a pawn, not to go home. Like, what do you mean? It was Ava. And Mickey's like, but I really like Ava. And Rachel says, I do too. And Mickey starts crying. And I'm like, wait, what is happening? You don't cry unless you're seriously considering an option. What? All of us, wait, what? How? Wait, hold on. And I start freaking out because I'm like, how in the world is this happening? How in the world is Rachel pitching Ava? And I tweet this out. I'm like, did something happen? Did allies become enemies just for always in this house? And immediately I start getting some replies. I don't know if she's really talking about Ava. I think Ava is code. And I'm like, okay. And I start locking in, and I start watching and listening to the conversation more intently. And immediately I'm like, oh yeah, they're not talking about Ava, because Rachel is saying Ava, Ava should maybe not be here anymore, essentially. And Mickey's like, but I need Ava in the jury. And Rachel's saying, but Ava maybe has a life to get back to. Maybe it's not fair for Ava if Ava has to sit in the jury when Ava has a life to get back to. And they're crying. And at some point, Mickey's like, we're talking about, we know who Ava is, right? Like, and it becomes very, very clear that Rachel is talking about herself, that Rachel is pitching for Mickey to nominate her. And this all kind of clicks together because the conversation the night before, when Ashley told her about how Mickey and Morgan were talking about getting Rachel to jury and then evicting her as the first member of the jury, Rachel was very upset about this. And
she's done it before.
This is the last thing that she wants. She is really missing her family. And she is, trying to play this game, to win this game. It's not going the way that she had hoped in terms of competitions, in terms of her social ability. It's certainly sort of a better place than she's been before. But if she's just being dragged along so that she can be plopped onto the jury, so that she can be like a rational vote for her allies that did that to her, and she doesn't really want to be there, seemingly. And so she is pitching for Ava, aka herself, to go up on the block and potentially go home in that spot. And now she would try in the blockbuster. She just isn't sure that she would be able to win it. And she also is saying Vince is still the better option. You should be doing Vince. But if you're not willing to do Vince, do me.
And I won't be mad at you. And like, it still gives you the blood on your hands that you want. Like, I'm a big fish. Nobody's going to be mad at you. And I saw a lot of online chatter after this saying like, all right, Rachel Giesling, like, this is Rachel's funeral. She's emotionally manipulating. What do you think, Taran?
I mean, I think that the context that we know of the conversation the night before, the way that Rachel was very upset about it, the way that Rachel talks to Jimmy later in the night about how she knows people are trying to drag her along to jury, I think that this was a genuine moment of like, I maybe don't want to be here. I think the fact that it was, that it was in code is another thing. Like if this was a pre-planned strategy by Rachel that she was talking about in the diary room, I'm going to go to Mickey and pretend that I'm willing to quit in order to make myself seem more genuine so that my pitch for Vince works. Then I think she would have just said me. I think she would have just said, put me up.
Because
I think
at the beginning of the conversation, she says, like, Mickey's like, let's talk about what you said to me last night.
Mhm.
And Rachel was like, so we can't. Like, actually, I can't.
Right.
But Ava. And that's when they started talking. And so to me, it's clear maybe production heard a little bit of what she was saying, gave her talking to, and then she was like, okay, I'll speak in code about this. And I do think it was a moment of weakness of her asking to be put up and go home if she's feeling very defeated about the jury situation at hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just hope that Button Boy didn't get in trouble for not catching the code. So yes, Rachel makes this pitch, and again though also makes the pitch that the better move is still Vinnie, that he is dangerous. He is everything that Mickey is mad about Jimmy for, but more effective and more dangerous. Vinnie is going to say that he ran everyone's HOH because it's true. And this is probably the least true thing that Rachel is saying, but she's close.
But I was going to say, he had the opportunity to run everybody's HOH. Doesn't mean he took it.
So she's making this pitch. She says, this is the only time, like, because the question then becomes from Mickey, well, how do you then get him out? Because how do you get the votes? If everyone thinks that they're his number one, how do you get the votes to get him out? And Rachel says, because right now, this is the only opportunity. With Riley on the block, you force Catherine to vote Vince out. With Riley on the block, you get Kelly's vote because Kelly would be willing to vote Vince out over Riley if Kelly wins that blockbuster. And then with me and Ashley and Will, and Ava, that is 6. Those are the votes. You have the votes right now to take Vince out of this game. And if you don't take the shot now, he is going to be so much harder to take out later. Jimmy is already on everyone's radar. Nobody trusts him. Like the fact that everyone is up here saying they're happy to have Jimmy go up is should be telling you that is doing their dirty work, that is putting Jimmy up for them and leaving Vince in this game in a spot where he will very rarely be able to be in this position again, and you will not have this opportunity. And Mickey's just like, but Morgan would be so mad at me. And Rachel's like,
isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem that your closest ally, the person who you consider your closest ally, who last week you were beefing with, but like is now currently considered your closest ally, the fact that she is like, do not do this person. Like, this person is so precious to me. Like, you could get maybe your closest ally closer back to you by taking out Vinnie, or, it's just the conversation that she has with Morgan later in the night where she will get there, but it's just like completely ridiculous to me.
Yes. So Rachel says, listen, if you put Jimmy up, I'm not voting him out. I can't do that. And honestly, I wanted Rachel to be even pushing even harder here. I wanted her to say the same thing she said to Vince. I wanted her to say, if you take Jimmy out on your HOH, that's going to be the dumbest HOH I've ever seen. Because I think that would really stick into Mickey's head, because she is worried about that. Later in the night, she says, I'm going to look like an idiot putting Jimmy up, who's really close to me. And so
who has a final 3 with her and genuinely means it. I mean, I don't know that he means like the final 3 all the way to the end, but in terms of Jimmy's closest allies, if you asked him to list 4, Mickey is in there. And like, he has the possibility to win. He's good at these games. He can keep you safe, at least for the next couple of weeks. I'm telling you, if Mickey was on the block and Jimmy won the veto, I think Jimmy would use the veto on her.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But listen, when you can choose Riley to use the veto on you instead, because he would do that. He said so. And there's definitely not a built-in mechanism to prevent him from doing that by threatening to put Catherine on the block if he does, even if he was willing. But he would definitely still do it because he promised.
Yeah. I think, your assessment of Mickey's interest in Riley, I was under the assumption after watching her yesterday that the reason that she is being protective over Riley is that he has managed to flip her back to his side after he got nominated. She feels really bad. She feels really guilty. But if the assessment that you have that she just likes him is true,
I think she likes him in the game. I think that Riley, I think, is a person that she is more drawn to generally than Jimmy. I think that's clear based on how little Riley has actually given her in the game and even this week versus how much Jimmy has actually given her in the game and even this week.
Makes my stomach hurt. Makes my stomach hurt.
The person she believes Riley to be is the person that she would rather work with, much more so.
Yeah.
So Rachel concludes that conversation. Now she does go back to Mickey later in the day and says, "Hey, that whole Ava thing, we can table that. We don't need to do." I think Ava was having a moment. And Mickey says, "Good." And for the record as well, in this conversation, when I say they're crying, they were crying together. It was actually very, very funny because they're having like a moment. Mickey is talking about like, when I saw some stuff from you in your original seasons, I was like, this is not a good person. So I don't know what happened to you in the time since then, but the person you are now is such a good person.
Which also, as she was saying that, I was like, Mickey, what? Also,
Rachel was wild.
Rachel was always a good person. Talk to anybody who was on her season 12, season 13. They all really like her as a person. She just is Rachel Riley. She will, during a competition, scream out like, Keanu, you're on my team, after she sees that he does really well. Like, she just is Rachel Riley. So for her to be like, whatever's changed in you since then, I was like, Mickey.
She meant it genuinely, but it was so backhanded.
Ridiculous.
But so they're having this moment and they're crying together. And downstairs, they're, Becky! 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 What do you want in your tacos? Becky! And Mickey literally had to be like, shut up! We're having a moment!
Oh, man.
Keanu literally says downstairs, "Oh, I really hope they were having a moment," and all you could hear was us yelling about the tacos, and I was like, "Yep, that's exactly what happened." Yep. So Rachel backs off of the idea later on in the night. One of two things, maybe probably both. We know this. I've talked about this a lot. The diary room, not very influential in the game. They do not push things. Sometimes people read into things that feel like pushing. Sometimes maybe you could theoretically, the producers are human. Maybe sometimes you could read into what they might want, or maybe you could think you know what they want. But what they do push very clearly, because it's very clear if they do ever push something, they do push, you're not quitting this game.
I mean, also, I tweeted this out yesterday, but A favorite of mine can never ever come back to Big Brother. Sorry, Tiffany Mitchell, you can't come back because everybody who I like comes into the game and wants to quit. Okay. So, Tiffany, Taylor, you have to stay away. Even if you're like, oh no, I would never quit. That's what I thought about my Rachel. Okay.
Listen, if
Nobody's
Taylor can
allowed.
make it through 24, I think she can make it through any season.
Very true. Very, very true. So Taylor maybe is safe, but sorry, Tiff, you're never coming back. Chelsea, not allowed. Not allowed.
So yes, Rachel seemingly back on board. And Taylor says, "I'm good, no thanks."
That's what I was gonna push back and be like, I feel like she'll be like, I already did this. Why would I need to stay here? Deuces, you know?
So Morgan starts getting nervous for Vinny. Because she knows that people are now starting to push Vinny onto Mickey, and she gives Zach and subsequently Vinny a bit of a heads up. And so, of course, Vince is now starting to freak out. And he's going and talking to Lauren, like, what should I do? What should I do? Should I call Jimmy out and expose him on everything? What do I need to? I just need to make sure that I don't get nominated.
Your Vinny impression is so good, Taran. You sound just like him. Like, for real, you have the cadence of his voice. It's really good. It's one of your better impressions. Mm-hmm.
I've probably listened to him talk more than anyone.
I know, but it's a very good impression. I also, though, like, you know, we all saw the stock watch last week. We know how I feel about Vinny. Thank God this evening, when his butt was actually on the line, he was doing something, trying to stop it. Thank God he started scrambling, and at least, we'll get there. But like, this was claps from Vinny, from me, at least very small golf claps that like he ensured he did not go on the block.
So he does go, also just funny, thing that Morgan keeps saying is that she's like talking to Zach and she's like, yeah, because Zach's like, why would anyone want Vinny on the block? And Morgan's like, well, it's because he's like playing all sides, just like Jimmy is. But what they don't understand is that when Vince does it, it's because like he's playing a card, like he has to.
Yeah, and also like it's because he's playing all sides, just like Jimmy, except we're the most important side. We're the ones that he's sticking with.
So Vince does go and talk to Mickey. And this was a very funny conversation to watch, and is also to sort of like see the response to, because initially people were like, wait, is Vinny defending Jimmy? Does Vinny actually want Catherine on the block? And that's because in classic Vinny fashion, he just walked through the pros and cons of both. And though by the end, it was pretty clear that he was more so pushing for Jimmy to go up than anything else.
I actually think, and feel free to push back on me on this because I could be wrong. I think he was like, well, obviously she should want Catherine. Obviously, that's the other option that she should be wanting. So I'm going to pitch that, see if she's responsive. I think he was just trying to see what she would be most responsive to so that he could then push that one harder.
I do think there is an element to Vinny that like overestimates the gameplay of some of the people that he talks to. So that sometimes he will, be like, well, obviously it's in her best interests to not nominate Jimmy. So if I push Jimmy at all, she'll see right through my intent. So I should push for what's good for her so that she likes me. And so I think that he was, I think that he was doing that a little bit, but then it became clear that she was like, I'm not doing Catherine. And he was like, oh, so you don't want to do what's good for you? Then do what's good for me, I guess.
Yeah. But also like and this is the reason that like both of these other options are much better for you than the idea of doing me.
And so the conversation seems to go fine. But at the same time, there's a bit of a shift that seems to happen after the conversation with Vinny and a couple of others, which sort of makes you feel like maybe it didn't go that fine. Like maybe this didn't work super well for Vinny, because Mickey is starting to talk more and more about like, so my options are Jimmy or Vince. And it's like, Vince was not an option earlier in the day. What happened? And I'm not entirely sure what happened.
Rachel.
All I know is that between the Rachel conversation where Vince was not an option, and the Vince conversation, Vince somehow then became an option.
No, I think it was Rachel. At the end of the conversation with Rachel, after she was crying, and this is why people were saying Rachel Giesling, like at the end of the Rachel conversation, when she was crying, she was like, okay, like I'm going to have to go around. Let me see what I can do about Vinny. Because she also did not say the 6. She didn't say Ava in that vote against Vinny. She only said 5. She's like, I think we would have 5. And Mickey was like, okay, well, let me start talking to some people and throwing it out there and see.
I think they did count Ava because they did get to 6.
Okay. Maybe it was later.
At least earlier in the conversation, because Rachel was like, oh, we forgot Kelly. Kelly would be our 6th.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then never mind. Disregard what I said. But I do think that Rachel is the one who really implanted it in her head and made her be like, okay, let me explore this.
Right. And I do think that, and as you mentioned, part of why people are like, oh, maybe this was strategic was that when Rachel is saying, send me home, it does make the other pitch feel a lot more genuine. It feel like it's not coming from a place of self-interest, because her interest is, I'm willing to leave. And as my parting words, watch out for this guy, Vince. I genuinely think it's in your best interest to take him out. I've played this game twice. I've won once. You should listen to me. And Mickey should listen to her. So it's in Mickey's mind. She has the conversation with Vince. Then Jimmy comes in later on as she's talking with Morgan, and they have a bit of a triple threat meeting. And we miss a good chunk of this, which is annoying, but it's a lot of like interrogation of Jimmy when it comes to Keanu and the vote, and a bunch of stuff like that. And again, it's just like, hey, so what's going on? Because again, Jimmy has done 0 wrong when it comes to Keanu. Jimmy has done 2 things wrong. His HOH nominations, when he didn't listen to his allies, and the one time he, in frustration, told Catherine, they're trying to get me to put Riley up on the block. And then Catherine went to Riley with that. And then, I mean, that was admittedly a very wrong thing to do.
Strategically, those are the 2 things he's done wrong. Socially with them, they have a whole myriad of things. And even as early as that first night of feeds, when they were all in Vinny's HOH room and he's like kind of biting at Morgan and like pushing back, like I think that those are the things, like I want to be very clear. That's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. Like socially or strategically, yes, Taran, those are the only 2 things that he's done wrong, and in their eyes. Socially, he's made a lot of missteps to them that make them feel like he's not on their side.
Right. They are talking about the strategic, though, in this in this interrogation. So yes. So those are like the 2 things that Jimmy has like done wrong strategically. But they are questioning him primarily about the Keanu stuff, because they do think that he has done a bunch of weird stuff with Keanu, which he hasn't. He has done nothing wrong with Keanu or the vote. He was, in fact, a solid person to help prevent the vote flip last week. And they're interrogating him about this. Like, hey, why did Keanu think that you were a vote for him? And Jimmy says, genuinely, the guy's delusional. I don't know. Like he, after the movie, he had a conversation with us where he was like, hey, we're a voting block. And then he tried to get me to vote Adrian to stay. And I was like, what do you mean the numbers aren't there? He told me that he had Vince and Zach locked in. So I went and checked with them to make sure they weren't. And like all of this is happening. They're like, but why would Keanu think that? And he's like, because the guy is delusional. And they were like, but okay, but so you're saying that the vote could have, that Adrian might have stayed, that Will might have left last week? He's like, no, I don't think so. They're like, but then what are you saying? He's like, I think at most it would have been a tie if Zach and Vince had voted that way, but I don't think Lauren would have broken the tie to evict Will. He doesn't know. And they're just like the aggro on him is so like they're reaching for things that don't exist. And he's genuinely just trying to defend himself with the truth. Now, what they should be asking him is, why did you tell Catherine that we were coming for Riley? And hey, bro, you shouldn't have put up Amy.
But like they're reaching for things that don't exist because they don't trust him. And I think that's what I was trying to say beforehand. And it can be because of the social reasons or because he, sold them out to Catherine and put up Amy. But all of those things, they just are like they're not fans.
And they tried to then like be like, okay, so Jimmy, what would you do if you won HOH? And he says, I'd probably do Keanu and Kelly and Riley if he's here or something like that. And he says, I mean, what I will say is, and this doesn't leave the room, right? And this is like the second time in 2 days that he's had to say this. And they're like, how dare you ask that, Jimmy? And he's like, it's just like a thing, I just sometimes you need to say it. And then he's like, so this doesn't leave the room, and they don't respond to him. And he's like, can I just get like verbal confirmation? And Morgan's like, yeah. And he's like, Mickey, got like verbal confirmation. Did you not see my head? like she doesn't even give him the verbal confirmation. And he goes on to say, I'm a little sketched about Vince. I think that the way he's moving has been really sketchy. I think that, that whole situation with the vote last week, the fact that he's constantly talking to Keanu and that Keanu always thinks that he has Vince locked in with him. I feel like he's always talking to people one-on-one. And I think that like, he's just somebody that I'm kind of watching out for. And so, he gives that pitch. Morgan ends up leaving the room. Then it's just Mickey and Jimmy, and the vibes get even worse because Morgan was at least pretending, but Mickey has not been, and so it's just it's rancid in there. Mickey is
tough
not giving him a single thing. He's trying to talk to her like, so what are you thinking? She's like, I'm not sure yet. And like, is it just going to be Catherine? She's like, I don't know. And so on. It's bad.
Yeah. And, Mickey really doing this Jimmy move is planting her flag with the Vinnie, Zach, Morgan crew, and everybody will be able to see it. And like, it's really not good. It's not good.
Yeah. And so Jimmy leaves, has a conversation with Morgan that we didn't see, where he tells her, like, am I just being paranoid or am I in trouble? Because that felt terrible. Which Morgan then, of course, uses to try to sink him further.
Because why would he even ask that if he clearly doesn't trust us?
So Ava talks to Mickey. And this is the person I've been waiting for, because Ava has the knowledge about what happened with the vote last week. She also has generally been able to advocate for things that are good for her with some solid logic. She's maybe one of the only people that can speak some sense to Mickey and make, be like another person on that side telling you don't do this. And Ava comes in and she pushes Jimmy. She pushes Jimmy over Vince. Now, what I will say is, it's directly after this conversation that Mickey has decided to maybe go in the opposite direction. But I do not think that Ava did this intentionally.
Yeah, she's, I think, if we're looking at Ava's positioning, and I hope that you guys are able to get into this more tonight on the roundtable. If you look at Ava's positioning, if that Jimmy part does blow up, and if Jimmy goes home and Mickey moves down into the Morgan Vince, the Morgan Vince Zach spot, that kind of, for Ava's positioning, I don't know that she's obviously, it kind of makes the house go from 2 sides to kind of like 3, like a bit like more amorphous. And I think that gives Ava a little bit more wiggle room to move within, all of the different groupings, as she's not really solidly with anybody. But I think that this will need to be talked about later about what this would mean for her, if her deciding to do that is terrible for her or could have some interesting implications. I don't know. I think that once the dust settles, kind of looking around, I don't know that Jimmy leaving is the worst thing ever for Ava. But
I'm not gonna lie, I listened to this conversation and I went, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ava doesn't have very good game sense, does she? Because it wasn't just what she was pushing, it was how she was pushing it, where she was like, the thing is, they're both dangerous, but fewer people would be mad at you if you put Vinnie on the block. And Mickey straight up tells her, that's not true. That's just blatantly not true. So many people have been up here telling me they want Jimmy on the block. And Ava's like, whoa, really? Let me think about this. So to recap, I'm pretty sure Vinnie would have fewer people mad at you. And it's like, what? That's the opposite of what she just told you, Ava.
I'm just trying. I'm trying anything, Taran. I'm trying to find someone.
She is clearly still suspicious of Vinnie. My theory on this is that when we saw her influence Vinnie and Zach last week, that made her feel like, oh, I'm in with Vinnie and Zach. They listened to me. So while I am still skeptical of Vinnie, somebody like Jimmy is more threatening, and the person I would prefer to have out. And quite frankly, again, I have to lay this at the feet of Rachel, who I think is too focused on some other things right now, who hasn't talked to Ava enough about the importance of pushing Vinnie here, and hasn't even found out about Vinnie trying to get Ava to cast this vote. There's supposed to be a final 2. This information's not flowing. And Rachel, I think, has more responsibility to be on top of this as a former player who knows what she's doing. But this was, I think, an illuminating conversation for me when it comes to Ava's game. I think that she still has a great position. And I think that when pointed in the right direction, she can definitely be effective. But this was definitely an interesting bit of a misstep here in terms of the way the read that she seems to have on Vinnie versus Jimmy, and the kinds of things she should be saying to a player like Mickey in this spot.
Sure. Yes. Someone in the chat said Maggie determined to not choose Zach as her player this season, who's good, who she's rooting for. And I have been really nice about Zach. Okay. I have. Zach is a good Big Brother player, and maybe we can talk more about him when we get to the Morgan part. But yeah, all my faves, they're falling. All my soldiers are falling.
So what I will say is, I think that, again, between the Rachel conversation, the Vince conversation, and now the Ava conversation, and even the Jimmy conversation, I think that Mickey is starting to feel like, wow, even Ava was defending Vinnie. I thought Ava was besties with Jimmy, and she's saying that Jimmy's, because Ava was like, Jimmy's a bomb-ass move. Like, that would be a really cool thing to do. You should totally do it. That's a big move if you want to do that. And I think it genuinely kind of scared Mickey off of the play to some degree. Like, why am I being hyped up to make a big move that everyone wants me to do? And everyone seems to be backing Vinny. This is exactly what Rachel was warning me about. And I just spent, like 2 hours with Jimmy, and he's in a final three with me. Mm-hmm. And so she talks to Morgan and she's like, I'm really thinking about Vinny. And Morgan's like, why? No, hold on.
Morgan's like, this is terrible for me.
She's like, I thought the alternative was Catherine. No, I'm not doing Catherine. I mean, because again, Morgan at this point, to just briefly talk about her, she's been pushing the Jimmy move, but has continually had moments where she's like, wait, is this actually good for us though? Wait, is this actually good for me though? Because Jimmy's going to crash out. Like, he's going to expose some things. It is genuinely just best for Morgan that Catherine goes on the block. And
it's best for everybody. It's best for everybody. Just like, not even just, it's best for Mickey. It's best for everybody. But continue.
Not best for Riley. She has these moments, and I think has at times then pushed Kat onto, like, maybe we should do Kat, and Mickey is saying no to Kat. And so they're now in this like position where Morgan has pushed Jimmy and is like, well, I'm thinking maybe we should just back off of Jimmy. And Mickey's like, I agree, we should do Vinny. And Morgan's like, whoa, no, I meant Kat. Oh my God, we should not do Vinny. And Mickey is saying, the thing is, I feel like I'm going to look like an idiot putting up like Jimmy, who's close to me, who is genuinely close to me. And Morgan's like, oh, it depends on how they portray it. And Mickey says, like, well, listen, I feel like I'm taking out somebody close to me so that you can keep somebody close to you in Vinny.
Why are you saying that to her? That's what I'm saying. This was when I was like, oh, throw the whole thing away. Why are you saying this to Morgan? Why? Of course she's going to push back on that. Of course. Also, why are you telling her you're seeing the game she's playing? Why would you say this to her? I do not understand it. Taran, help me understand why she would think talking this out with Morgan was a good idea. These are correct observations that she is making about how her ally is pushing her to do something that is not in her best interest and is pushing her away from something that is in her ally's best interest. Talk to anyone outside of that ally.
I think she's having this conversation because in her mind, she has decided this is what she's doing in this moment. And she is now prepping Morgan for the decision and trying to give her the reasons why she's making it. Now, that still does not explain why she's saying these reasons, but I think that she is genuinely trying to make Morgan understand the reasons why she has decided in her brain, I am going to do Vinny. And this is happening late into the night last night. And it was like, wow, she is genuinely turning on Vinny right now. She wants to put Vinny on the block. She's saying she's going to. Morgan is freaking out. And this conversation starts to get heated. And Morgan is like, you can't do this. Like, you can't do this to me. I can't have Vinny leave. Vinny needs to be on the jury. He needs to be on the jury. And Mickey is like, I don't know. I feel like him leaving is what's best for me. And she's like, it could be literally anyone else. And Mickey's like, okay, so I'll do Zach. And Morgan's like, what? Why would you do Zach? I don't think you should do Zach. It's like, okay, I'll do Lauren. Well, I don't know why you would do Lauren though. And they're getting heated in this conversation.
And this is crazy.
Morgan starts crashing out in the way that she has done before. You just don't understand, Mickey. Like, nobody cares about me in this game. Nobody lets me talk. Nobody pulls me to talk. Nobody asks me anything personal. It's always game. And it was always game with Vinny, but then Vinny's like the only person that talks to me about personal things. Like, I'm more than just a model. And Vinny's the only one that understands that. And you too. And so like I can't be in this house without him, Mickey. And in the middle of this crash out, Keanu enters the room. And Morgan, to her credit, pivots very quickly and starts trying to redo the conversation that got them on the Jimmy page in the first place. And starts asking him about like Jimmy and the vote and what would you do, Keanu, and wouldn't you be so happy if Jimmy went on the block, and all of this stuff. And Keanu just again performs the thing that he needs to do here, and to Keanu's credit, does not screw up in a major way.
Woo! $10 on the board for Keanu if we're looking for most improved.
And again, there's nothing new that comes from this conversation beyond Keanu just sort of like reminding, through the help of Morgan, reminding Mickey of like where the mindset was to put Jimmy on the block in the first place. And when Keanu leaves, Mickey has flipped back around. She's like, okay, so if we do Jimmy, what does it look like? Where are the votes? What do we do to prep? We're really not going to tell him. And just like that, Keanu may have put the nail in Jimmy's coffin after all.
Can we just go back to Mickey being so petty to Morgan that she's like, well, I'll put up Zach. Well, I'll put up, like, what was the reason for that? These people are nuts. Like, what? I was like, oh my God, the girls are fighting. Like, they're fighting. And also, I think the reason I've done some reflection throughout this podcast, and I think that the reason that I am having such a hard time with Morgan is that I really hate to see a smart, good game sensed girl throw her game away for two guys who do not care about her. And that's why I'm being so hard on her. It's really not good energy. And I don't appreciate having it on my screen. And that's what Morgan's doing. And this crash out that she's having, like, I really feel like the crash out, the way that Morgan is, that is someone you do not want on your jury. I just got to say, that is somebody who will be vindictive and self-righteous. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. She is really emotional about her decision making, even from her being like, nobody talks to me outside of game, and Vinny's the only person who talks to me, and I'm more than just a model. Like, and I don't mean that in the like really, I don't mean she's so emotional and they're like, oh, a girl, what? Like, I do not mean that. I just mean like the way that she thinks, even though she is a very strategically minded person, she's letting her emotions really cloud her. And it's just really sad to see. I'll never, ever be okay with a really capable, smart woman throwing away things that could be her advantage for two guys who couldn't care less about her. And honestly, good on Zach. Good on Zach, you know?
Can I give a quick comparison that just came to mind? I think game-wise, specifically, she's giving Big Brother All-Stars to Danny Briones.
Yeah. Yes. Gameplay-wise, with the emotions of a Vanessa Russo.
I mean, I think the emotions aren't too far off either, but like just very much like active gaming for the benefit of a duo in this case, it's Zach and Vince. In the case of BB All Stars 2, it was Cody and Nicole, where she thought, and in this instance, Vince is the Nicole, where like she thinks I'm in with Nicole, I'm in with Vince, but really Nicole was loyal to Cody, whereas Vince is not to Zach, and that's where things really start to fall apart. But like, but she's going to have like she's gonna like be kicked out by them on like a double eviction, and be like, what happened?
I mean, the crash out of Zach not voting for her to stay when it happens and being like one of the votes she really needs is going to be just like mind blowing. But I think that that's why my disappointment in her is reigning so supreme, because it's just like I don't know how else to say it other than just like incredibly disappointing, and like doesn't need to be this way. And like I hope that she can find the validation within herself that like she deserves the game moves that are best for her to be implemented. And like, yes, she's pushing that for Mickey because she really believes that like Zach and Vinny will save. Like, I think that her pushing for Vinny to not go up is the best move for her right now. But like, I hope that she finds within herself over the course of this game, like she should really just be thinking about herself rather than like these guys who don't care about her.
I mean, I actually do think that Vinny going up is better for Morgan's game than Jimmy going up.
Well, yeah, because you think Vinny is the angel of death.
Yeah, genuinely. And I think that Jimmy is the best weapon that Morgan and Mickey have against Vince and Zach. Jimmy is one of the only people in the game who is genuinely on the side of Mickey and Morgan more than like pretty much anyone else. Yep. That is not true of Zach or Vinny. It's not even true of Rachel, who is more so with, Ava and Ashley and Will. Like Jimmy is actually the only person in that game that is just fully on their side. The two of them, both of them. And so he is, and on top of that, wins comps and is a bigger target than them. Like
I said, he would use the veto on them. Zach's not using a veto on them. Vinny certainly is not using a veto on them.
If Mickey sniped out Vince here, then Morgan would be more in with Lauren and Zach, because they would have fewer options to go to. She would still have Jimmy on one side. She would get no heat for this move because she fought against it. And she would genuinely, I think, be in a better position because Vince is just very dangerous for basically anybody's game that he is connected to. He's somebody like Lauren probably needs Vince a bit more now. Although there's even an argument to say that I did make the argument earlier that like if Lauren loses Vinny, she could maybe latch onto somebody else. But seeing her talk to Mickey during the day and still just stare at the screen when she's talking to her tells me that I just don't know if she's ever going to talk to anybody other than Vinny in the game. So,
sorry. Yeah.
So Vinny and Zach end up joining the conversation with Mickey and Morgan. She full on says, "We're doing Jimmy. That's the plan." Vinny is like, I'm ready. I'm ready to call him out and make my stance clear. And things just kind of like solidify from there.
Yep. She says, "I'm saying it right now to you both. Jimmy's my renom." And I hope Jimmy goes full scorched earth. And I hope he wins the blockbuster. And I hope that they're also not doing like anything to prep for this. They're not talking about any other like they're doing nothing.
They're not. They're doing zero prep work for this massive move. And even if she had switched to Vinny, she had done basically no prep work for it, and it could have been a disaster. Even though I do think it's a move that she could make that could be good, it does require some groundwork to make it work properly. And if she had switched last minute, it could be disastrous. So Jimmy talks to Rachel late in the night while some of these conversations are happening. He says, I'm worried I'm about to go up. She's not saying he's not going up. He says if he does, he's going to go scorched earth. We'll see. Personally, I think that there's a high chance, I could be wrong, I think there's a high chance that this time tomorrow, I'm giving an update on how there was an argument, and then late at night, Jimmy and Mickey talked, and Mickey said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And now I don't want you to go home anymore, Jimmy." And now they're really hoping that Kelly loses the blockbuster. And there are some uncomfortable conversations about like Jimmy versus Riley. And at first it's like, well, obviously Jimmy can't stay against Riley. But then maybe over some time, they're like, well, maybe Jimmy could stay against Riley. And it's a whole thing.
I think that that's exactly what you're going to be talking about tomorrow. And also, I do think Rachel is going to campaign for Jimmy. And I'm interested to see what her campaign will be, how that's going to go, how that's going to go over with everybody. And my hope is Jimmy kind of goes scorched earth, wins blockbuster. This solidifies his relationship with Rachel. And they're in lockstep moving forward, because like I've seen a lot of people comparing this to the Suri Miss Felicia Heisem move, and I don't disagree. Like Jimmy is a really important piece for them who can win competitions. Like I said, like he would use the veto on them. I think in Big Brother, looking at who would or would not use a veto on you publicly is a huge indication of who your truest allies are. And yeah, we'll see. This whole HOH, it's just been like rotted, huh, Taran? It's just been not good.
All of the HOHs.
It's really, like I said, I texted my friend yesterday and I'm like, I'm starved for like a good player for me to root for.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the thing here too is that I think that with the Heisem move, Corey was there to make sure it landed when they wavered. The person to do that would be Vince this week, but we know how much Vince pushes. He's no Corey. So there is a chance that like they don't have the votes to keep Jimmy, to be clear. If Vince and Zach decide they want Jimmy gone over Riley, they can't do anything about it. But that has been the case twice before that Zach and Vince have had the votes to do something and then not done it. So it doesn't mean that Jimmy is for sure dead in the water.
I kind of hope though that like by the end of the week, Morgan is like, okay, and we're all going to vote to keep Jimmy, right? And they're like, yeah. And then they don't vote with her. And then we get to see that crash out. That would be fun.
I mentioned before also, Ashley talked about the four of them up in the HOH room late at night. Also should mention that Catherine and Riley, of course, spent like all of their time together again. And Riley really wanted to talk to Mickey again because he's going to be so pissed if she puts Catherine on the block. He then does go and talk to Mickey again. Catherine continues to tell him to play nice. But it just feels so clear to me that like this whole thing with Mickey and Riley is just not going to last the way that he talks about her with Catherine, even right now. Like,
if
bad news.
Riley wins next week, he's putting up Mickey. Like,
he could. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me.
Yeah, it's darkness. It's real darkness, Taran, that whole thing.
All right. Anything else, Maggie?
Good luck to you and Melissa and Mari tonight. Good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor, everybody who bought stocks. Yeah, this is wild, Taran. Are you having fun?
No.
Yeah. I'm really not having fun either. I'm not, because this is just like you wish there was at least somebody, and you said something maybe yesterday or the day before about how like the goal has been, or like at least you were like, well, these moves are really bad, but they'll get the repercussions of their actions, next week, and they'll see how bad the moves are because like then their positioning will be bad. But because everybody's making bad moves, it's just making it like kind of unfun because then nobody's punished for their bad moves, and then everybody's just like rolling around in some slop, it seems, and not the Big Brother kind. I'm not really having fun either.
Well, we will be maybe cathartically talking through all of this on the Stockwatch Roundtable podcast tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that. I will release the survey once the veto ceremony happens. Once we come back from the veto ceremony and it is locked in that either Jimmy or potentially Vince or Catherine or whoever goes on the block. So stay tuned. Keep an eye out for that. Of course, check out the book Behind the Mirror that I wrote about the show. You can pre-order it at taranarmstrong.com and find me over on YouTube and Twitch streaming during the episodes and when things happen that are exciting on the feeds, like maybe today. Who knows? Maggie, what are you up to?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky at MLMorgan_. I made a video last week about how being a Big Brother fan is embarrassing. And I do think after the gameplay this week, that only applies more. So go check that out on the RHAP YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm around.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me here today. And I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.